Binghamton screamed from the dock, wringing out his soggy uniform. Parker is finished. Kaput. I'm breaking him down to seaman second class so fast his head will spin. The crew knew Parker wouldn't survive a formal hearing. They needed a plan. Laughing gas, McHale suggested, leaning back in his chair. When I was at the dentist the other day, I felt like $1,000,000. If we can get Binghamton giddy, he'll cancel the board. Gruber and Willie managed to liberate a tank of nitrous oxide from the base infirmary. They rigged a hose to the window of Binghamton's office. As the gas began to seep in, Binghamton was midway through a rant to Lieutenant Carpenter, and then we'll send Parker to a rock-crushing detail in the Aleutians, ha. Ha ha. Binghamton started to giggle. He looked at the paperwork. Oh, Chucky Wacky, you're such a card. Parker, standing nervously by the door, blinked. Chucky Wacky, sir. Yes. And Carpenter. You're a dummy. A fat little dummy with fat little legs. Ha ha ha. Binghamton leaned out the window, shouting to the base. Cancel the fitness board. Parker is a genius. I love everyone. However, the plan hit a snag when an actual Japanese air raid siren sounded. The crew scrambled, but Binghamton was too busy laughing to realize the danger. Look at the pretty flies, Binghamton cheered, pointing at the incoming zeros. Frangipani flies. Geronimo. Parker, still slightly affected by the gas himself, climbed into a gun turret. He began spinning around, laughing hysterically. Wee! Look at me! I'm a bird! He accidentally bumped the trigger. A stream of lead flew into the sky, crossing the path of a Japanese bomber that was just about to drop its payload on the fuel dump. The bomber exploded in a spectacular fireball. Admiral Shoemaker, who had arrived for the fitness board, watched in awe from the bunker. Magnificent, Shoemaker whispered. That boy stood laughing in the face of death. He didn't even aim! He's a natural combat officer. By the time the gas wore off, Binghamton was back in his office, confused and nursing a headache. Shoemaker marched in. Gas, B. Gas wore off. Binghamton, you're a fool, Shoemaker said. Trying to court-martial a hero like Deadeye Parker? The boy is magnificent. Fitness board cancelled. In fact, I'm recommending him for a citation. Binghamton looked at Parker, then at McHale, then at the empty gas tank hidden behind the bushes outside. He put his head on his desk. Why me? He sobbed. Why is it always me? Chapter 6. The Ghost of PT 13. Desperate to break the crew's spirit, Binghamton decided to play on their superstitions. He discovered a document claiming that the PT-73 was actually the PT-13, a jinxed boat with a history of explosions and missing crews. It's a Jonah, Binghamton told McHale. A floating death trap. I suggest you and your men put in for immediate transfers to the Aleutians for your own safety. The crew was spooked. Strange noises began to emanate from the hull at night. Engines started by themselves. It's a ghost ship, Skip, Parker wailed, hiding under his bunk. McHale, however, noticed a piece of fishing line attached to the engine's throttle. He realized Binghamton and Carpenter were behind the haunting. Two can play at that game, McHale whispered. That night, Binghamton was sitting in his shack, gloating over his cleverness, when the lights flickered and died. A low, moaning sound echoed through the room. Wally. Oh, Wally. Binghamton froze. Who's there? A glowing, translucent figure appeared at the window. We are the ghosts of PT-13, the figure wailed. We've come back for you, Wally, because we're lonely. No, stay away, Binghamton screamed. We need company, another voice moaned, Parker, wearing a gas mask painted with skeletal teeth. Come join us in the big PT boat in the sky. I'll give you anything, Binghamton sobbed, cowering in the corner. Just leave me alone. The transfers. The ghost of McHale demanded. Return the transfer papers to the office and tell the truth about the boat. I will. I promise. The ghosts vanished. The next morning, Binghamton was found huddled under his desk, clutching a signed order, restoring the PT-73's number and officially declaring it haunt-free. Chapter 7. The $62,000 ankle. The ultimate chaos began when the crew took a trip to New Caledonia. Binghamton had entrusted Parker with picking up the base payroll, $62,000, in small, unmarked bills. "Take the shortcut back," Binghamton had told Parker, secretly, hoping he'd be robbed. Past the gambling casino. Just before the racetrack, Parker did exactly that. And, predictably, he was knocked unconscious, and the money was stolen. When Parker came to, the only clue he had was a fleeting glimpse of a girl's ankle. "A birthmark," Parker told McHale back at the boat. "A little brown heart on her right ankle. I'm positive, Skip. It was right where I grabbed her. I mean, when I was falling. We've got to find that girl," McHale said. "If we don't return that dough, we're all going to the brig for life." The crew began a frantic search of New Caledonia. They spent hours lifting tablecloths in cafes and peeking under benches, much to the annoyance of the local female population. "Pardon me, ma'am," Gruber said to a woman in a cafe. "I'm looking for a stolen Navy table. The serial number is on the, legs." "Get out!" the woman screamed, throwing a drink at him. Meanwhile, Binghamton had arrived in town, convinced the crew had absconded with the money. He chased them through the streets, leading to a high-speed pursuit involving jeeps, fruit stands, and a very confused local gendarme. The climax occurred at a local fort, where the thieves had stashed the money inside an old, decorative cannon. "I've got you now, McHale," Binghamton shouted, cornering the crew near the cannon. "Produce the payroll, or you're finished. 1, 2. Suddenly, a Japanese Zero, wandering off course, decided to strafe the fort. The crew dived for cover. "Light the fuse," McHale shouted to Parker, pointing at the cannon. "Maybe we can scare him off." "But Skip, it's just a decoration." "Light it." Parker lit the fuse. The cannon roared. Instead of a cannonball, a massive cloud of green paper exploded into the sky. $62,000 rained down over the fort like confetti. The Zero pilot, blinded by a blizzard of $20 bills, veered off and headed back to sea, presumably to reconsider his life choices. Binghamton stood in the center of the fort, his mouth hanging open as a $100 bill drifted down and landed on his head. "The money?" Binghamton whispered. "It was in the cannon. See, Captain?" McHale said, brushing himself off. "We were just keeping it safe." "A very secure vault, sir." Binghamton looked at the money, then at the grinning crew, then at the sky. He took a deep breath, crumbled the bill in his hand, and sat down on a pile of dirt. "Why me?" he asked the universe. "Why is it always me?" McHale patted him on the shoulder. "Don't worry, Captain. We'll help you count it. After all, what are friends for?" And as the sun set over the Pacific, the crew of the 73 began the long, happy task of gathering up the payroll. Bill by Glorious Bill, the Taratupa Tempest, the Misadventures of McHale's Navy. Chapter 1. The Gastric Grenade. The humidity on the island of Taratupa was not merely a weather condition. It was a physical weight, a wet blanket soaked in salt and diesel fumes that pressed down on the morale of every man stationed in the South Pacific. But for Captain Wallace B. Binghamton, known to his detractors, which was everyone, as Old Lead Bottom, the heat was the least of his problems. Binghamton sat behind his desk, his face a shade of purple that suggested a looming medical emergency. He clutched a bottle of antacids. Like a holy relic, he clutched a bottle of antacids. Across from him, his sycophantic aide, Lieutenant Elroy Carpenter, stood at a stiff, awkward attention, looking like a man who had accidentally swallowed a coat hanger. "Wow, wow, wow, wow," Binghamton muttered, mimicking a voice from a nightmare. "Garter belts, Carpenter. The nurses need garter belts, and I'm the one fielding the calls. I'm the commanding officer of a strategic naval base, not a haberdasher for the front line." "Sir, the supply officer is working on it," Carpenter stammered. "He says they're snapping to it. Shaking a leg, as it were." "Don't use that imagery with me," Binghamton shrieked. He popped another pill. "Everything is on my shoulders. The war, the logistics, the leaking sinks at the petty officers' club, and now, the ultimate disaster. He waved a crumpled telegram.